going live here on the Plutonian Podcast. My name's Rue. I'm here to bring the truth to you. That beautiful, ugly truth that most people can't stand or despise when it doesn't resonate with their egoic perception of reality. Tonight, I want to talk a little bit about the way. The way is a Taoist principle, if you're familiar with Taoism. Taoism is an Asian philosophy. Stephen, nice to see you over on Facebook. Good evening. Is a Taoist philosophy where we accept what is without resisting it. It's Wu Wei. But first, let me update the people that are familiar with me and my life situation. I've been struggling with personal issues and just recently got sober over about 10-11 days ago. I quit drinking and mostly quit smoking cigarettes, although cigarettes have never been a real issue. But motivation has been an issue for me recently, and that's why I'm such a proponent of chastity and non-ejaculation and no-fap, because I feel like that will help all men cultivate creativity, motivation, and positive desires. But those are the things that I'm working on, and it's been a kind of rough since my transition in being sober and not incarcerated and actively in society, and albeit a very sick society. But that's not very Wu Wei of me. It's not very accepting of reality for what it is. But also Jordan Peterson, the great Canadian psychologist, also said that you can't really criticize the world until you have your Thanks, Steven, bro. I've been wanting to hit you up, but I ain't got your phone number or anything like that. But I guess I could give you a little ring-a-ding on the old messenger. But Jordan Peterson tells us not to say anything about the world unless we got our own house clean and in order. And I think not everyone does have their house in order and clean. And the room that I'm broadcasting from right now is littered with my belongings and unorganized, but this is the spare room. So anyways, all personal shit aside, cheers to a sobering cup of coffee, and even trying to eliminate coffee from my diet because caffeine is the most socially accepted common drug in the Western world. And if you didn't know, Chinese people only drink coffee about once or twice a year, if that tells you anything. But Chinese people are way different from us, but only in the fact of cultural ways. They're people just like us. They have families and they love their children and they want to survive and thrive too. And it's very interesting because this brings me back to my original topic, the way, Wu Wei, which is the Tao. And the Tao is a philosophy of doing and non-doing. By not doing anything, all things become done. And that's one of the stanzas from the Tao Te Ching, which was written by Lao Tzu. That was about 500 years before the Bible was written. Now, the reason why the Tao Te Ching, the book of the way, is so profound is because it is been translated thousands and thousands of times into multiple different languages. Man, this poster is bugging me over here. And the one thing that I've always found most resonance and most peace and most insight into is the way, or the Tao. And that's spelled T-A-W, but it's said Tao in English. It's said with a D. And I have some very critical insights that I've been noticing about a lot of people. But let me share my one of my best tattoos is This tattoo right here is the Tao. It's a yin yang. The light is contained within the dark, and the dark is contained within the light, and everything is a self-contained thing. But it's got the hexagrams that go around it, and then my bear paw that I got when I was in prison, just because I fought off, the white gang, because they tried to assimilate me because I'm apolitical, and I really shouldn't be bringing up the past because that's the past, but I'm apolitical when I'm in prison and when I'm out here. But the way in the Tao is very important to me. But what's interesting that I've noticed is that there's a lot of little gangs out here in the real world, like cliques, if you will, or tribes, and people like to stick together, and that's the way people are. It's just becoming identified with these groups is a very dangerous weapon that's been used against us. And what I'd like to point out is that I've seen a lot of YouTubers going after each other that I know and respect and like. I don't really want to name any names, but Russell Brand and John St. Julian, because all know who Russell Brand is. John St. Julian has an orphanage in Tanzania. So for all of you Black Lives Matter people out there that are white or black that want to really make a difference in some black people's lives, go send him some money his way. His name's Baba Wanda John St. Julian on YouTube. Share Tanzania. But he's literally takes special need children in Africa, and he's got a village with over 200 people that he's built from the ground up. Shout out to him. But it was interesting because he's been recently making formal apologies to Russell Brand because in his past he said he made some egoic comments towards him, that Russell Brand was part of the Fabian Society. And, that wouldn't surprise me. But, Russell Brand is kind of pushing a lot of the mainstream narrative and commentating on it. And I feel like he's just kind of normalizing it. I mean, a lot of people will think that they're woke or, ahead of the cut by watching Russell Brand. But really what he's doing is he's just taking your attention and also placing it on what's on the mainstream, which is, MSM, mainstream media, has a very potent effect on people's psyche. And it's, kind of disruptive to the world. And, I could sit down here, and Stephen would like that too, because I know he said he wants me to, update on current events. And I do have time, and I have a wide pool of information that I drink from. But, is it going to benefit anyone to know that the children born during the pandemic have a lower IQ than kids born before that? Maybe, but that's pretty negative. There's all kinds of negative information out there, but a lot of it's relevant, and some's more relevant than others. That's why I chose to mention the children, and what kind of world we're creating for them if lockdowns and pandemics are reducing the IQs of our children because they're not being treated in a normal way than children born pre-pandemic. Then what are we doing here? Why are they less? About 30 points less, 20 to 30 points less in their IQ. They're unstable connection. That is not good. And I'm not recording this on my phone, which I should be. How very rude of me to not be recording the audio. Anyways, these children need to be handled physically, otherwise they will die. If human beings aren't physically handled when they're infants, then they will die. It's just their lower IQ, lower motor sensory, the neural synapses in their brain aren't really forming. Now, there's so much going on in the world right now, and there's always going to be. And mainstream media is always going to be trying to scare you, whether it's ISIS, COVID, or these dreadful hurricane storms that happen every year. There's every summer there's fires and storms. But I feel like these are just natural occurrences. This is just the way nature is. Uh, and my biggest mission is to be Wu Wei, doing and non-doing at the same time. It's a mindful presence is what it is. And there's a way to do things without forcing them. And that is what Wu Wei is, and that is what the Tao is. And that's been my main philosophy. And it's really hard to unpack it because it's very abstract. Even even in the very first line, the very first, sorry about the traffic too, folks. I'm on a busy road, but if you can hear it, the very first line in the Tao Te Ching, the Book of the Way, says the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. Because as soon as you place a name on it, you've identified it and you've put a conceptual meaning to it. When the Tao is beyond that. And it's the source of all living things. It's another way to say God. But it's a lot more abstract than our Western ideology would lead you to believe, because the Tao doesn't sit in judgment. And really, I think anyone who's spiritual or mystical doesn't sit in judgment or doesn't view the deities. There are some judgmental deities, but the deity, the originating source, isn't really a judgmental being. Because how could it be? Because it is everything and everything is in it. So how are you going to judge yourself? I mean, I know we judge ourselves, but that's ego. That is separation. So the way is one of my most potent philosophies, and I really like the way because it does tie in with Qigong and martial arts and semen retention and ancient Chinese wisdom. And I feel like there was a rebirth of Chinese wisdom in the Western world, especially in America, with the and maybe not specifically Chinese, but just Eastern philosophy has taken root in Western ideologies, and it's not a bad thing. And I feel like if anyone is afraid of something, they should go learn about it. And this just to circle back to what these YouTubers are doing to each other. First, I mentioned a couple, really spiritual gentlemen, whether how spiritual they are or not, they portray themselves in a certain way, and they both have a certain air about them. That's Russell Brand and St. John. But these two other individuals that I watch, Colin Smith from Lifting the Veil, shout out, and Santos Bonacci, Mr. Astrotheology, shout out to both of you guys. I love you both. I watch both your things, but I just watched a good hour's worth of a 2-hour live stream of a somewhat debate over the shape of the earth. Flat or round is the big debate these days. Is it a flat earth or is it a round earth? Or you could get into some quantum sci-fi Twilight Zone and speak on things like Musk, who says, are we in a simulation? Maybe. Is this the Matrix? Well, Matrice, the mother, yes, we are in a womb of sorts. There's a biosphere that keeps us alive, and there's rules and protocols that govern existence and reality. And the most fundamental one is the Tao, or source, or unity. All that is one. The light is contained within the dark, and dark is contained within the light. But it is just very crazy to see two YouTubers like publicly defaming each other, and no hate on anyone really, and that's kind of where I want to keep this podcast slash live stream slash space of mine here on YouTube, which is very small right now. And I appreciate all my fans. Steven, #1 fan over there on YouTube, pushing me to get out of my comfort zone and speak on what's on my mind and what's on my heart. But the main issue that I want to drive home tonight is, #1, all things that don't serve the Tao won't last. Because they're not in accordance with the Tao, then they can't survive. So again, what is there to fear? If it's not in accordance with the Tao, then it shall cease to exist. And I don't want to directly attack or name any names anymore, because I'd like to be more sage-like and unfolding and unblossoming in my own spiritual slash, I don't even want to use spiritual anymore, because that word has so many connotations these days. In my own psychological growth, my own soul growth, my own mental development. But one thing I would like to point out and really drive home tonight, if I haven't yet, is that if our leaders were so great, thanks for the likes, brother. If our leaders were so great, then how come there's such a lack of consensus on what the real truth is on so many things? Why do we have so much division, and especially here in America? Why is there so much doubt and debate over whether the coronavirus is real and whether these vaccines are safe and effective? Why has there been censorship and silencing of real experts with differing opinions? Why is there so much debate and questioning over the shape of the earth these days? I thought this was settled. I thought we lived on a round globe, a spinning ball of water that was spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Why is there a revival of the ancient ways of thought, the ancestral ways of thinking, that the earth is a flat plane? I like to call it a dome earth, because no matter what, there is a biosphere over us that keeps us alive, that keeps us contained as well, as my theory. But if we had good leaders, then there wouldn't be so much division in one of the most prosperous nations in the history of the world, one of the greatest empires there ever was. And this leads me into the 36th stanza or paragraph of the Tao Te Ching, the Book of the Way. And it is the wisdom of obscurity. And I don't know if I'm going to speak this verbatim. Actually, I could probably pull this up really quick here for y'all. And I'll read it verbatim. But it's a very interesting little saying here. There it is, wisdom of security. Obscurity. I've already looked into this. Daily Tao. Here we go. And this was recently inspired by, Wayne Dyer, who wrote a book about it, and God bless his soul. He's passed away, but he's been a very, very motivational force for me recently. The Tao Te Ching was written around 25 years ago by a man named Lao Tzu. It is one of the oldest texts in existence and certainly one of the wisest. Its wisdom is timeless, and his message is as relevant and as pertinent as now as it was back then, if not more so. It is vital that we learn to come back into balance with the natural world, to live more in a more harmonious and selfless way. And the Tao Te Ching has beautifully instructed us in bringing ourselves, our lives, into alignment with the Tao. And this was written by an artsy writer guy, gets all shy when it comes to filling out these self-subscription blah, 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 blah. He doesn't have a name, but this is from the Daily Tao blogspot.com. This is verse 36, the wisdom of obscurity. And this is what I perceive happening in what America's, should you want to contain something, you must first let it expand. Should you want to weaken something, you must first let it go strong. Should you want to take something, you must first allow it to be given. The lesson here is called the wisdom of obscurity. The gentle outlasts the strong. The obscure outlasts the obvious. The soft overcomes the hard, and the slow overcomes the fast. Let your workings remain a mystery. Just allow people to see the results. Now that is so profound. I don't know if anyone's going to get anything from that, and you know, I don't know if anyone's going to get anything from this anyways, but you know, that again reiterates and reinforces the way, the Tao. And let things take care of themselves. It's doing without doing. Man, I wish this mic wasn't so noisy. I hear the I can literally hear the telecommunication noises. I can literally hear the radio waves from the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth coming through the mic and my ears. But this guy says the Tao Te Ching is filled with seeming paradoxes, and yet life is one big paradox. There is usually little truth in the obvious. However widespread its acceptance and common sense, it's usually a contradiction in terms. The most obvious common sense solution is often the thing that pushes what we want further out of reach. Sometimes adopting the opposite approach is what allows things to come to us. No struggle, no fret, no desperate crawling and grasping. One of the central messages of the Tao Te Ching is to let go and allow life to be. The moment we cease grasping and trying to control and manipulate is the moment life begins to flow, and all can come us to the right time in the right way, if it is in balance with the whole. Perhaps it is time to reevaluate some of the key conditioning of our culture, which indoctrinates us to believe that strength comes through force, harshness, aggressiveness, covetousness. God, I love that word. Covetousness. I'm still not saying it right, but pardon me. Plotting and being as hard and fast and as unstoppable as we can. Lao Tzu suggests that it may well be the exact opposite that is true. Power stems from gentleness, softness, and slowness. There's even evidence to support this. It's been shown that those with kinder, gentler dispositions tend to enjoy far greater health and long run than those. I need a drink of coffee of a more aggressive and restless nature. It would therefore surface to try and eliminate the latter and cultivate more of the former in our lives, which is really, honestly, what I've been saying over here is Wu Wei. You know, you can't force anything, you know, which is why these vaccines need to be mandating them is never going to work, and they need to be voluntary. And why you can't force love, and how a woman conquers a man is with their gentleness. The woman is below the man in size, in stature, and in so many ways, and to be honest, women are really stronger than men because they're the ones that carry the race. I want to give a shout out to my lovely fiance on that note, and all women, and even my mother, if she ever watches this. She might be proud of me. This damn poster. But yes, the women carry the race and they have a natural asset, the life-giving potential. It does take two, but anymore with artificial insemination, I guess you could probably bioengineer sperm and an egg if you really wanted to. But what is that? Where is that going to lead us to? Some sick, twisted sci-fi reality. But again, we do need to protect our women and we do need to protect our children, and the men have become weak. Why are the men weak? Because they think they're strong. Welcome to the meta mind. Welcome to the meta military. Welcome to the precious. You guys like my Smeagol impersonation? I've been keeping it a secret. My precious, stupid, fat hobbits voting for the president being misled by those filthy, fat, stupid hobbits. Yes. So Steven over here, YouTube, laughing at me on Facebook, and my precious impersonation of the Trixie Hobbit. Women are physically stronger than men when it comes to total weight, to size of themselves. Men can physically move more, but not as much as the size of themselves, and women have a higher pain tolerance. Yes. So what Stephen is talking about, if you guys didn't get that, is that the size ratio of women, they actually are stronger than men. So if you were to take a man and a woman the same size, the woman is probably going to be stronger than the man, most likely. Maybe not quite so much, but yes, this is true. I would say because women are pretty fucking strong in general. Men may be bigger and stronger in general in certain ways, but if you shrink man down to the size, a male down to the size of a female, then the proportion isn't going to be. And I feel like, that might be a scientific fact. I'm not going to just blanketly agree, but I feel like there's a lot of truth to that. And I feel like he's probably right. Like legitimately, like most women can pick up the other side of a couch, and I've moved furniture with it. And there's a girl I used to move furniture with in one of my jobs, but, and the pain threshold is physical pain because they have to birth. And if you could imagine squeezing a football out your your vagina or your urethra, guys, come on, imagine something coming out of your urethra or your anus. Your anus, not Uranus, Uranus. Anyways, precious, back to what we were talking about, which is the meta mind. The men have become weakened by the precious. To the men out there, these people that, especially a lot of the chest thumpers out there, because I used to do that when I was incarcerated. I would bang my chest, like an alpha, just as a joke, but it was funny, in prison, you got this weird dude with weird hippie dude, long hair, bumping his chest, going, making fucking weird. I'm such a weird person when it comes down to it, such a goofball, and I really need to let that part of me shine. But, that whole, the Trump train, guys, it's just a big gang, really. Republicans, constitutional conservatives, gun toters. It's a big gang. You're not going to be able to shoot your way out of a vaccine, and the weirdest thing is that, like, I got 2 points here, is that there's a lot of, now that the the vaccine is like it's nothing more than a gang. Now that it's FDA approved, a lot of the mayors are trying to push the vaccine on the city cops, and there's whole unions of cops that are opposed to the vaccine. And why is that? You can't force these guys. You're never going to be able to force anyone into doing this. That's why it has to be voluntary. But it's wild, isn't it? It's just wild that there's so much resistance to this, and that, like, if you are resisting, if you are opposed to getting the jab, then you're automatically considered a Trump supporter or a redneck or a constitutional conservative gun-toting person. And it's like, I'm really, really disappointed in our nation. And, honestly, I am a true patriot because I have so much love for this country. This country is a Cancer, the zodiac sign Cancer. Like, you're speaking to an astrologer here. I'm not like an active practicing astrologer, but astrology is a very fascinating study, and there's a lot to be learned. And if you look at the emotional nature of the nation and the herds, and it's weird that we even have that word, but we do have a very emotional response to everything. The Trump supporters, the Biden supporters, and the saddest thing really is just seeing how diametrically and dualistically opposed these tribes are. What tribe are you in? Do you have an Android or do you have an iPhone? Do you rock Reeboks or Nikes? Are you a Blood or are you a Crip? Are you a Norteño or are you a Sereno? Do you like Ford or do you like Chevy? Or are you a Dodge? Like, so many, Suzuki, Kawasaki. It's like, and they're all just brands, and people believe that we're free. And this is like, I'm gonna quote Mr. Legal Man here, one of my role models in a way. I like this man. He's a very brave man, but people believe they're free because they can buy an infinite amount of useless shit, material objects and junk food, and they can play. People believe they're free because they can play. And if you play the game right, if you play the matrix right, you can really play. Now, most of us are stuck at the very, very bottom, and we work at least 40 hours a week, most of us, and then we have to drive to work, most of us, especially most white straight males, gotta go somewhere. We're not, because, again, I'm kind of rambling here, but the way that the world is set up now is it doesn't reward the system doesn't reward the strongest that are physically strong. It rewards the most intellectually strong, the most intelligent. But the intelligence is a very it's not really intelligence in a way. It is intelligence, but it's only the ability to operate within a fine set of parameters, which is memorizing and repeating and staying within a certain line of narrative. And if you step out of that narrative, then you're automatically going to be doxxed or nixed. You're going to be punished, which is why we go through 12 years of schooling where the teachers are the authorities and you have to listen to what they tell you is the truth. And, you do become educated in arithmetic, math, and such, if you will, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. These are all things that are, useful and beneficiary. Geometry, I believe, all these algebra, Science is also very beneficial if it's real science, if it's tested and questioned and hypothesized. You know what we have going on more recently in my life is more of a dogma slash religion. I wouldn't call it real science because all of the people that disagree are silenced. You know, real science is there's a hypothesis, and you know there's a debate, and there's allowance for questioning. And that's why I said that the intelligence is a narrow gap. It's a very fixed and finite type of intelligence, because you're supposed to remember what you're told and do what you're told. And granted, if you go into a certain field and you're really creative, you can invent and prosper, and you know you can thrive in that. But as soon as you step outside of the popular, socially accepted norms, which are crafted by the social engineers, these behavioral scientists and psychologists play our emotions, which is why it's such a very slippery slope that we walk on, which is why I've adopted the way, the Wu way, the letting the unfolding of the life happen before me and not interfering and trying to control and grasp. But it's interesting to observe, and it's not something that I want to become emotionally identified with, because tomorrow has enough problems of its own. So let us worry about tomorrow has its own problems. Today has enough of its own. So let us not worry about tomorrow, or whatever that is from the Bible. But Stephen on Facebook says life is nothing more than a game. What does that mean? Well, that means, I would say, that it's a dog eat dog world. The strong prey on the weak. That to get by, you do have to join forces. Not always. Depends on how strong you are internally, which is why the way on the outside, a sage looks like a fool and ignoramus, but on the inside, he's glowing bright. And that's why you'll never really even know a sage is a sage until you speak to him. Oh boy, I'm getting tired. Man, this was a random video, but I've been thinking about it a long time, about what my next podcast is going to be. And I really, really do want to produce one every week. And, you know, I'd like to keep them down to like 20 or 30 minutes, and depending on how passionate I am about the subject. But again, I would like to reinforce one of my original notions, which is, if we had such great leaders, then why is there so much division amongst us? Why can't anybody agree on anything, from the tiniest microscopic nanoparticle called the coronavirus, which we still don't have a scientifically isolated image of. We don't have a 3D image of the coronavirus taking a cell and infecting someone. All we have is these computer generated images that they show us on the screen. From the smallest microcosmic, what is the word, modicum of matter, to the largest, grandest, which is the shape of the earth, the entire universe, the shape of the universe. We can't get agreement on, from the coronavirus to the shape of the earth to whether God exists or not. And that is because we have very poor leaders. If we had strong leaders, we would have unity and we would have clarity. So that is my main message. And I put a new sticker on my truck. And I really do need to start making podcasts, in case people really do want to check me out now. They got something to look at. But I put still voting for the lesser evil, because that is the most common thing I hear about when people vote. They're like, oh, just, voting for the lesser of two evils. And it's like, but you're voting for evil. And that's the greatest trick the devil ever pulled off, is convincing people that the devil does not exist. So Steven says over here on Facebook, because I'm streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Shout out to YouTube. Shout out to Facebook. I mean, as a gang in the U.S. Army is a gang, same as other armies. Cops are a gang. People that believe in religion is a gang. It's all about where you fit in. And when you have a bunch of people that believe in the same thing, and it's a gang. If people are not the same, then you're judged, which is, Stephen explained that very concisely. And it reinforced my point, which is, yes, strength in numbers. Like, you typically, to survive, you do need a clique or a tribe or support, but it's not so much like that anymore. It is, but it isn't, and you don't have to be. But like, in a metaphysical way, everybody is. Like, it's, yes, you will be judged for what you wear, how you speak, how you look, what you drive. In the Western world, you don't need an entire tribe to gather resources. You don't need a whole gang. That's because we're on top of the world. We're literally the leaders of the world. We're the kings of the world, which, again, this goes back to the 36th verse in the Tao Te Ching, the way, the book of the way. Obscurity. If you want to, you must let it doesn't say destroy specifically, but if you want to contain something, you must deliberately let it grow. That is what American dream is. And that's what growing and growing and growing. And this is the same as China and all the Western worlds and all the developed worlds. They've been growing and growing and growing, and under their own weight, they will collapse. There's even a hexagram in the Tao Te Ching, which is the book of changes. Tao Te Ching, Tao Te Ching, Tao Te Ching. I think Ching means book, right? But the book of changes, which is metaphysical divination, it's actually a 5,000-year-old book, older than the Tao Te Ching. But there's a hexagram, and I forget which one it is, but I get it often, and it's basically what it symbolizes is a pole with a bunch of weight on it being pushed down into the water, and it's basically something that's collapsing under its own pressure because it's not reinforced in the middle. It's heavy on the top and heavy on the bottom, but there's no strength in the middle. There's no center. And that is where we're at in this nation. There's no center. There's no balance. We've been growing out of control for, I would say, over 150 years at least. After again, let's not forget that the American government wiped out the indigenous tribes, the Native Americans. To most white folk, they're called Injuns or Indians. No offense. Sorry, you have to say that in this day and age. No offense to any Redskins. Oh, you're not supposed to say that. No offense to any brown skins. No offense. No, but legitimately, indigenous is how I refer to them. And I actually grew up on an Indian reservation, so I'm not too worried about offending people. I was beat up because I was a white guy. And guess what? On an Indian reservation, a white boy is the minority. And why did they attack me? Because of my, air quote, European ancestors that stole the land from them and abused them. But in reality, I don't know how many of my ancestors killed the natives, but, we were pioneers in my family and farmers and such. But my family was also murdered by Mormons. Fun fact there. But basically, we were just farmers and what have you. But the point is that there was an agenda to try to assimilate the indigenous Americans of the continent of North America, and a lot of them wouldn't go. And they were murdered and massacred with smallpox and firewater. And a lot of the tribes sold each other out, and a lot of them were slaughtered and put on reservations. And you just look at what the Canadian and the American government did to the indigenous, and I'm like, how can any of the indigenous tribes even trust the government after what they've done to them? Well, it's a very simple answer, because they have been indoctrinated too. Perfect example, where I come from. Second or third richest tribe in America is the Southern Ute Indians. They have a lot of money and they're very comfortable. Why would they bite the hand that feeds them? Why would they mistrust someone that literally takes care of them like babies? You know, a lot of the natives will defend, you know, that government there, but they don't see that they're inside of a very oppressive, invasive police state. There you have very many layers of law enforcement there, because you have the federal tribal police, and then you also have federal marshals there training, because it's in the Southwest United States. You have the town cops, you have the sheriffs, and you have the state patrol. There's 5 different jurisdictions of police in a very small area. Don't know why. Is it a conspiracy? Why are there this many cops in America anyways? And why are the cops saying no to the COVID jab? Police unions are saying, no, we do not want the COVID jab. Why? Again, these are just questions. I'm not pro-vax or anti-vax. I'm not anti-gay or pro-gay. I'm not anti-trans or pro. Man, it's just very hard to accept all these things, but no judgment, Wu Wei, right, the Tao. But again, to circle back, if this was a real emergency, then why would we have to be incentivized to take the jab? Big changes are happening right now in America. Yes, Stephen, I agree. Why, oh why, would we need to offer up a lottery for $1 million for someone to save their lives? That's the most important question I ask to anyone. And they don't have a good answer for me, because you wouldn't need to pay somebody to get them to save their lives. Now, as far as the astrology goes of this week, I know we're having Venus ingress into Scorpio here soon. And I know we're having a lot of Libra energy coming in, and we have the Sun in Virgo. Now, what does Sun in Virgo mean? Well, it's time to harvest. You pick your fruits, and you pick your grapes, and you can your food, and you can your wine, and you save your seeds. Now it's time to harvest. Like it says in the book, in the Old Testament, in the Bible, the book of Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything. There is a time to put this poster back on the wall. Now is the time to harvest. Let me take a look at the Virgo information here. The tribe is called Asher. The tribe's attribute is willpower. The letter is Yod. And it rules, the part of the body is the intestine and the belly. The element of Mercury, the planet of Mercury. Now, Virgo is a cerebral sign. This sign likes to organize things and put everything in their place. Virgo is a very practical sign, if you will. Likes to have everything accounted for. But the most important thing I think is best to do in Virgo season is to get as healthy as you can and prepare as much as you can for the winter, because it signals the time when the days are really starting getting colder and shorter. This is fall. We're Virgo. What Virgo really represents is the death of summer, because every mutable sign represents the death of a season in a way, because it's on the cusp of two seasons. So Virgo has the quality of the heat and vibrancy and beauty of summer, and also the crisp, cool change of fall. And usually there's monsoons that happen. It's monsoon season, I reckon, in Virgo season. But it's really time to it's always time to get and stay healthy. But Virgo really does represent health, and really true health is gut health. And that's why they say you are what you eat. You have a lot of nerve endings in your stomach, and you can feel things in your gut when things are amiss. And if people were truly in touch with their body, they would know when something's right and when something's wrong. Listen to your gut. And that's something that I could take for my own advice, is listen to my gut. Listen to my gut. My gut's never wrong. My intuition's never wrong. Why? Because I'm a Pisces. A little bit astro talk over here, but it is very important to know that we did ingress into Virgo and that it is ruled by Mercury. So information is very important right now. Organizing is very important right now. Gut health is very important right now. Purification and chastity is very important right now, because Virgo, the Virgin, represents purity and refinement and innocence. So let your mind be like a child. Accept things for what they are, because, again, the serenity prayer, Lord, grant us the strength to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that is a very beautiful prayer, and the essence of what I'm trying to adapt right now. Wu Wei, doing and non-doing at the same time, letting things be as they are. Well, my friends, I reckon that's about it. I appreciate you, Steve, over there on Facebook, and anyone who watches this in the future, who enjoys my podcast, going back from my new ones to my old ones and checking this one out. There's some useful information in here, and if you would like to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Thy Root, because what I like to do is get to the root of the problem, to root out the problem, cut it at the roots, pull it up at the roots. And my Facebook page is Pluto and Scorpio Official, because I'm an ambassador of the Pluto and Scorpio generation. I do wish to make peace, but the true warrior makes peace within. The only change that you can change is internal change. You change yourself and you do change the world. Therefore, the more peaceful I become in myself, the more peaceful my relationships will be, and the more peaceful the world and reality will be. I wish to embody peace and envision peace. Have peaceful thoughts and peaceful ambitions and peaceful intentions. And to create sovereignty. Sovereign mind, sovereign spirit, sovereign soul. Welcome to the meta military. Welcome to the meta mind. Meta is a Greek word that means after or beyond. I feel like we're beyond the stage of needing a military, because we're all connected now more than ever with the internet. And I know the government thinks that they can control everything and monitor us, that they can have complete dominance over our mind and our souls and our lives. But the most important freedom to have is internal freedom and internal autonomy. Let us move beyond the need for massive power structures such as government. Let us move beyond filling the coffers full of grains and hoarding food and weapons while the rest of the world goes cold and hungry. Why are we, the kings of the world in America, sitting on top, fat and bloated, while the rest of the world starves and suffers in poverty? There's enough wealth in this country to change the entire world. Let us lead by example. Let us be what we were truly born to be. Let us unite the world, but let us not meddle in foreign affairs except to help the rest of the world. Let us not interfere with foreign fights. Let us not ponder foreign quarrels. Let us deal with our own domestic issues. For a great country, if you were in a great nation and a great country, you would never want to leave. You would be taking care of your own. You'd be building tractors and houses and farms, not weapons of mass destruction and mass deception. For it states in the book of the way, a nation that displays its weapons is not a nation that will last. It is not a nation that is in accord with the way. I'm going to read this quote from the Tao Te Ching. Tao Te Ching. Let's see here. Chapter 80 by Lao Tzu. About the way, patterns, process, things, subjects. This is a very long one. Not that long, but this is a good one. And let us finish with this. 8, the number of infinite. And 0, the number of nothing. So infinite nothingness. The ideal land is small, its people very few, where tools abound 10 times or yet 100-fold beyond their use, where people die and die again, but never immigrate. They have boats and carts which no one rides, weapons they have and armor too, but none displayed. The folk return to use again knotted cords. Their meat is sweet, their clothes adorned, their homes at peace, their customs charm. And neighbor lands are juxtaposed so they may hear the barking dogs and the crowing cocks around the way, where folks grow old and folks will die, and never once exchange a call. A small country has few people. Yeah, or this is another translation, but yeah, basically, why would you display your weapons? That is not the way. Anyways, appreciate you guys, my family, my friends, my enemies. Blessings to all. Good night.